is an Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Unspoiled, covering Justified, Season 6, Episode 5, Sounding. In this episode, Ava tries to make a break for it. Poorly. Welcome to Unspoiled.
On this lonely road, trying to make it home, doing it by my lonesome, pissed off with no son. I'm fighting for my soul, God, get at you, boy. You try to go fall back, I go hard. On this lonely road, trying to make it home, doing it by my lonesome, pissed off with no son.
Yeah, not her best work.
Listen, lady. I understand the impulse. In fact, I don't even think that it was a bad decision en toto. I just think that if you're gonna do it, at least put some fucking thought into it, lady. Like, what are you doing? She just really seemed to half-ass it, and this is no time to be half-assing anything. Stop, girl. You know?
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, I have a lot of sympathy for her, but I was watching this just kind of going... I think what surprises me the most overall about how this went for her is that apparently she doesn't have any sort of contingency plan in place already. That once she decides she's going to just book, it's a real fly by the seat of her pants situation because it apparently never occurred to her that this might happen, which I think is ludicrous, frankly. You know, like, if I were in this kind of situation, I would do nothing but worry about, if I have to run, what do I do? You know, but you know, I have anxiety. So
terrible criminal, I believe, was your exact words.
I say it, if I said it once, I've said it 1,000 times. Criminal is not a job description that sounds like it has a lot of time to be chill and not worry and just watch some Netflix, so I'm not interested. I would be bad at it. Welcome to the show, everyone. I'm Natasha.
Hi, I'm Alan. You know us by now. Who the hell starts with Season 6, Episode 5, honestly?
I would love it if somebody, like, wrote in and was like, me, actually? Thanks, hi. Like, okay, weirdo.
I say, all right, fine. Go leave a review on iTunes and get back to me.
Right, it just kind of comes down to like, well, I mean, I stand by it. You're still weird. Don't know what to tell you, buddy. But
so we are looking at Season 6, Episode 5. Yeah, we are almost halfway through this season, actually.
Yeah.
And that came up fast. I feel like we haven't done 5 weeks in a row in a long time.
I know. Yeah, we almost didn't do this one because it comes out. It's just it's inconvenient for us as movie lovers to be recording on a night that most big movies wind up coming out. It's a Thursday night.
But I have my 11 a.m. tickets for Saturday.
Nice.
So, yes, I'll have all day in the bright sunlight to forget about
to get over it.
Clouds. Exactly.
Yeah, I should probably look into getting some tickets for Sunday. But anyway, so this episode was a lot more setup, I feel like, of other things that are going to be coming. And I liked this episode, but it felt like a lot of things, I don't even want to say they're in stasis, but it just would kind of wind up back at square one in a lot of situations, you know? So it sort of feels like, all right, next one, we're going to have to deal with the fallout of this because it did not, we made a good attempt, didn't work out. Now what?
Except for Boyd's plot. I'd say Boyd's plot got a little bit of forward motion.
Mm-hmm. True.
So
you want to tell me who did this one? Tell me.
Let's do that. All right. So Season 6, Episode 5, Sounding, written by Dave Andron and Leonard Chang. Again, David Andron's been with us for a very long time. This is Leonard Chang's 4th of 5 scripts that he's written, so he'll be back for just one more. And directed by John Avnet. This is his 9th of 10 episodes. So again, we have a lot of longtime people on this, and I guess that makes sense to me because they introduce and reintroduce people that have been away a while or have not existed before, and that's cool. But I don't know. I didn't love this one, to be perfectly honest. I thought it was fine, but I felt like maybe that was it. Maybe it was the lack of forward motion for me. And I think I expected more of it because of the pedigree of the people who were involved.
Yeah, I think when the first time that I watched this, I was watching it on my computer while I did some work. I think it was like the night that we recorded. I watched it right after. And when I watched it that way, I enjoyed it because I was kind of like, going back and forth between doing things. I would hear something happening and I would jump over to that screen and watch it. But it was sort of a lot of sound and a lot less like requiring focus. Sure. And then once I sat down today to rewatch it, and I watched it with Owen, it struck me how much more slow moving it is and how little actually happens. And watching it with someone who isn't particularly invested is always kind of a good way to sort of like, it's a good barometer in some ways because another person might not have the same kind of patience if they're not as invested in the characters and stuff. And he was still engaged a lot of the time, but I found myself being like, oh my God, he's going to start getting really bored, like worrying about that. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think that it was definitely, it was slow paced enough that I was kind of like, all right, did we really need to have that conversation between Ava and Limehouse go on for as long as it did? Like there are a few different conversations where it just felt like they wind up making an agreement that you knew was inevitable from the start of the scene, that they were going to do the thing that they proposed from the beginning, but they just make us wait so long to get there. Same with Boyd and him trying to get Ava's uncle involved, that like, that's a long scene that we cut away, go to another scene and come back and Boyd is retrying, and I get that they want us to realize how much convincing he took and how unwilling Limehouse was to get involved. But it is kind of hard to sit through it when you're, even as a first watch, that they're going to do what the person's asking, know?
So why are we wasting our time?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But this would not be the first time that an episode has turned around on me just through discussion. So let's get into it, and who knows, maybe I'll come out singing its praises.
All right, let's do it.
All right, so our first scene, we are with Boyd and Ava again. They're in the middle of returning to Harlan, and they're talking about the idea of staying and farming, and Boyd is totally jazzed about this, and he wants Ava under lock and key to make sure that she is safe and that they are going to be okay.
It's like somebody gave him a list of all of the opposite things to say to make Ava happy. Like, we're 1, staying in Harlan. 2, no plans to leave ever. 3, I'm going to make my friends watch every movie you make. 4, like, it's just, how much can I make her uncomfortable and need to fucking run ASAP? And every word that he's saying, they keep on like showing her face over his shoulder, looking more and more desperate, and just like, oh God, why? Yeah, poor Ava.
Yeah, and although they're returning to Harlan in this scene, they are actually stuck in traffic because there is a state police checkpoint, and ostensibly they're looking for a fugitive, but this has all actually been set up by Raylan in order to check on Ava,
which is kind of boss. Like. When I realized that this whole thing was just a ploy so that he could see if Ava was okay, I was just kind of like, well, damn. All right. Like, it just, I don't know. It's just kind of rad that he has the ability to like bring the fucking freeway to a halt to talk to one person, Totally. I forget the kind of power he has. Yeah. He doesn't even do it.
Yeah, so it's a pretty fun scene because, it's the whole thing's a total misdirect. And when they do, the state police, they talk to her a little bit. They sort of peek around in the truck just for appearance's sake. But when they go back to talk to Raylan, their reply is she looks like she is on edge.
Yeah.
And that's all the information he gets. But he says, okay, good enough, wrap it up. And apparently he wants to he and Tim he wants Tim to head off to Lexington to get together with Albert Ficus because they're afraid he's going to screw up the cover story on Ava's release from prison.
Yeah, and they do this thing where they cut from him being like, all right, well, let's check up on Albert. And they cut from that to Duffy being like, all right, if they check up on Albert, we know he's fucked. And I'm just like, you goddamn it, guys. They just gave me so much anxiety through this whole episode. But yeah, I just got really irritated with Raylan. It's like, it's a combo of, I wish that Ava would get into a little bit more detail as to why she's so sure that Catherine knows exactly what the hell is going on. Because it doesn't feel like she gets a chance to like word for word repeat the conversation. And if she had that opportunity and he listened to her, I think he'd agree. I think he would. There's no way you hear what she said to Ava and don't think that she knows what's happening. So it really fucking ticked me off that like she doesn't get to say the thing that she needs to say. And Raylan just doesn't take it seriously that Ava is not, sure, she has anxiety about what she's doing. Why would you not, right? But she isn't somebody who like unreasonably flips out about stuff. And it really feels like he isn't giving her any credit. It feels like he's treating her like she's just hysterical over nothing. And he's not actually stopping to listen and find out what happened. You know, like if I were in his shoes, I would want a blow by blow of the exact conversation. I would want to know, especially because she's somebody who's like close to Boyd. Who is she? Where the fuck did she come from? Because does he even know her? Does Raylan know anything about her? Wouldn't he be curious?
That's a very good question. I mean, I feel like for Raylan, at the end of the day, the fact that she is freaked out about who knows what doesn't matter. Maybe it matters to him personally, but in terms of like we know you're in shit right now because you've got to balance all of this stuff. But you need to give us information. That's the whole reason you're here. It's the only reason you're here, because you agreed to do this. So I get that it's scary, but you knew that risk going in.
Yeah, but if there's a player involved that you didn't know about, and you just found out from Ava earlier that there's a dude who's in charge of the guys that you were trying to find out who their leader was in the first place, this feels like another puzzle piece to that. So, at the very least, even if you're not actually concerned about Ava's safety and you're not taking her seriously, that seems like a question that you should be asking. And wanting to figure out where does she fit in all this? Why is Boyd getting involved? Like, how... I don't know. It's just like, there's so much about how Raylan responds that he's like, well, you need to give us something, Ava. And I'm like, well, she could have if you asked the right questions, but you're seemingly not hearing some shit that feels really relevant to me. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know that I can argue with you on that. I mean, I think that his head is probably in the wrong place to want to ask those questions. I think he's more in the mode of, you need to calm down and get back in there and do your job. And maybe he should be probing a little bit more. Or maybe he just doesn't want to poke the bear. You know, if I let her go off about this, she's going to go spiral out of control. So I'm going to let her keep bottling this up tight. Go do your job. And, you know, maybe it'll resolve itself. I don't know.
Well, I'm side-eyeing him because that does not look like it has worked.
That's fair.
And he's just, you know, if the main concern is, well, I might have to send you back to prison if you don't give me anything good, we'll just, like, let her talk then. Like, listen to her. That's the whole thing, right? Is that she's supposed to be giving you information, and yet you don't want to hear the words coming out of her mouth. Maybe just shut the fuck up, Raylan.
Nope, that is reasonable. I don't know how much time I don't know how much time they've had to talk, and maybe rewatching the episode, a scene will come back up where it shows me where he could have had this whole conversation with her. But well, we'll see if we get there or not. We do though go to Catherine Hale back in the hotel room with her grandchildren, Thomas and Faya, and she's threatening to lock them in the closet.
Oh my God, that was killing me.
Yeah.
I love the way she says it too. Like she says it like, haha, it's a joke, but there's a look on her face where she's like, I will do what I need to do. Like, oh, she's scary.
Yeah, and all of a sudden, Wynn Duffy shows up, and he is kind of perplexed at the existence of children in the room.
You could just have left off the in the room part. And I think that would still be quite accurate. He just seems to just be like, what are these? They look human, but they are small. I don't understand.
But he is there to report with her about Ficus, and he has a guy watching him. And if law enforcement finds him, they have their answer that this is all being set up. And if they don't, then they are going to question this guy themselves. Mm-hmm. And we do also learn that Catherine does like Ava.
Yeah.
Which is nice. It wasn't all a put on. She did genuinely have a good time with her.
Mm-hmm. I liked that they make sure to let us know that. Because it could be very easy to really hate Catherine just because she is so ruthless. But to let us know that she, she may kill you, but she'll feel really bad about it.
Yeah.
That gives me a little extra something that feels relatable there. I like it.
Yeah, and she just has this feeling about her, and the last time that she had this feeling, when she suspected there was a rat, it was right before Grady went away. And but Duffy, sort of, I was going to say soothes her, but that's not quite right. But he says that this is all going to be settled soon. Don't you worry. They're on this case. Mm-hmm. So she has a precedent for looking at this and just saying, this isn't adding up. I guess we know that already. She's a smart lady. Back at home, Ava has cooked Boyd this gigantic Southern breakfast before she rushes off to work.
Yeah. This I said when I was rewatching it with Owen was like, if I ever make you this giant, gorgeous meal, but I don't stay to eat it with you, I'm skipping town. Just so you know, that's what's going on. Because there's absolutely no reason I would put this work in for something that I'm not going to eat. Not happening.
Yeah, but Ava says basically this is an apology. And she says if Boyd really believes that they can stay in Harlan, then she is behind him. And she's on her way out the door. Boyd, though, stops her from leaving, which visibly stresses her out. Mm-hmm. But he's leaving, or he's holding her there to take the engagement ring out of his watch fob and put it back on her finger.
This was rough.
Yeah, it's uncomfortable for a whole different reason.
Yep. Oh, I felt really bad for her having to sit there and it's one of those moments that he puts this on her finger again, and in an ordinary couple, one of them would be like, I love you so much. But instead, she just waits for him to be done and then goes, I'll see you tonight. And I'm like, oh, awkward.
Yeah. Yeah, that's not great.
No.
I'm looking at it again right now. And actually, I will have to eat my words now. Once Ava's in the car, she does call Raylan, and she's flipped out even more because of the Catherine thing. Mm-hmm. But yeah, instead of him actually taking the time to find out what happened, he pretty much says, she can't quit. We need information from you, or we're sending you back to prison.
Yeah, I mean, she says, I'm so worried Boyd's going to take a call from Catherine and put a bullet in my head. How is he not who's Catherine?
Yeah.
That's a big question, dude.
Unless they got this information off screen, I mean, but still, yeah, it does seem like a conversation that either they should have had, or if they had it, we should have seen it.
What I'm saying is that it should have been Rachel that was dealing with Ava as a CI, because Raylan
Completely.
Sucks at this.
Yes, 100%.
Super terrible.
100%. At the end of the episode, Ava would not have kissed Rachel. No question.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. We're not going to talk about that yet because I'm not prepared.
Yeah.
I have feelings.
But I'm just saying, if at any point the CI and their handler wind up kissing, then that is not the right match from a, get the job done point of view. But yeah, we'll get there. So, yeah, she wants out, but if she stops now, she's going back to prison. She tells Raylan finally that, okay, we're going to meet at the junkyard. And then she hangs up and throws her phone out the window.
That seems fair.
I guess so. Yeah, I've when she did it in this episode, I'm just like, whoa, like, hey, you're behind on your bills. I don't know that you should be throwing phones out the window. It did not, the whole GPS thing didn't even occur to me.
Oh, see, I am super paranoid about that. I've been actually writing a section of my book where somebody has to kind of go underground. And when I really stopped to think about it, you can't do anything. And when he starts to talk to her about it later, and he's like, you'd have to do all cash, and you need to have fake identification and stuff like that. That was all stuff that I was struggling with. I was like, oh my God, because the person kind of has to take off without warning. And I was suddenly like, they're fucked. Like, short of them disappearing, which is what I wind up having them do, very literally, into another dimension, that's just not going to be good for them. They don't have the resources. And Ava just doesn't really think that kind of thing through at all, evidently, except for throwing this away. But that almost felt more just like a moment of frustration with him versus an actual tactical move,
Yes, that's true too. Yeah, it does. It does seem more like it's out of frustration than anything else. We go to our credits. We come back to Tim and Rachel in Lexington, and they are on the approach to Albert's house, or Albert's mother's house, as the case turns out.
Oh my God.
And Rachel is not surprised whatsoever that Albert lives at home.
No, same.
Yeah.
Same. This guy, the way that he deals with women, he clearly has some other issues. Like,
I would say so. Yeah. As they get close, though, they spot Duffy's man surveilling the house. They see that he has accumulated leaves on the hood of his car, which means that car's been there for a while.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for hours, evidently. Which I'm like, oh, that's a good trick.
Yeah, right. But yeah, they decide to just keep on driving, figure something else out.
Which, again, I was so relieved that they have the presence of mind to notice that, because when it goes right from Raylan saying we're going to send somebody over to Duffy being like, oh, let's watch and see if they send somebody over, I was like, motherfucker. But I really think if it had been Raylan, like, driving, it would not have gone that way. Thank God it was Rachel and Tim, because they know how to pay attention. Jesus Christ.
Thankfully, the grown-ups were there.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
Or at least the grown-up, Rachel. I don't know that I classify Tim as quite a grown-up yet.
Tim is he can be immature, but he listens to the grown-ups. Like, Raylan doesn't even listen to the grown-ups,
Yeah, that's fair. I was going to put him as, like, the guy who still lives in the frat house, even though he graduated 6 years ago.
Right, yeah.
But no, I think that makes more sense. He at least has a good sense of his job. So we're going to come back to them in a few. First, we go to Duffy and Mikey, and they're playing Scrabble. And Mike is fighting for his right to use the word aplex.
Oh, my God. This might be my favorite scene in this episode. Mikey is just so, like, earnest about it. Yeah. Like, oh, I love it.
I don't like that guy. He aplexes me.
Oh, my God. And then, what's the matter? You look aplex. I can't even say it without laughing. He's just so sincere. Oh, Mikey, who are you?
Yeah, unfortunately, their debate gets interrupted. Duffy gets a phone call that Ficus is on the move. Mm-hmm. And he instructs his guy to follow and report back. Duffy looks uplexed. Mm-hmm. Raylan is waiting at the junkyard for
like a
Ava who is for Ava who is not showing up, and he also can't locate her because she does not have her phone. So he decides to put in a call to Constable Bob to ask for his help, his confidential help in locating Ava.
Listen, Constable Bob, I've really warmed up to him. Like, he just made me so infuriated at first. And now he's just kind of endearing, like, he still annoys me in a way, but mostly I'm over it. And I'm just kind of like, oh, you dumb. And my other favorite moment in this episode is when he looks down at the paper when he's talking to Errol, and it's just a bunch of fucking scribbles. It's barely even like legible words in there at all. It's just that I was watching it, like I said, on my computer, and I was in the room with Owen, who was playing a video game with his back to me, and I was like on the computer with my headphones on, and I like bark laughed. You know that kind of laugh that you do when you're just caught by surprise? And Owen got so irritated with me. Oh my God, he was so mad. He like hit the ceiling. He's like, Jesus. I'm like, I'm sorry. There was a funny scribble on a paper, which evidently was not good enough for him. He did not care.
The only thing that would have made that better for me is if there was a stick figure drawing with boobs.
Oh my God.
I think that really would have completed it for me.
And a dog breaking his chain.
Yeah.
Fucking dummy.
Yeah. So
Listen,
Raylan is...
Ava's pretty, but is she like that pretty though?
You know, according to the show, yes, she is. It's one of those things that, you know, as I look back on, like, I grew up watching Saved by the Bell, and Saved by the Bell spent so much energy convincing the world that Kelly Kapowski was the most gorgeous creature that ever walked the face of the earth.
Okay.
And, like, sure, like, she's attractive, but the way that everybody, like, they can't walk in a straight line around her.
Right.
It just, like, looking back on it as an adult, I'm like, what? I don't understand this at all. And I kind of feel the same way about Ava. Like, literally everybody. Again,
yeah.
It's the same. It's the exact same thing, and I don't get it. And, yeah, Bob is just like, Ava Randolph. Oh.
I mean, I guess I have even less of a problem with it with Constable Bob than I do with everyone else, because for him, at least you can be like, oh, high school. Where, you know, like, there's just a kind of, you assign a fantasy and an obsession to somebody that you actually knew. And in high school, you think that people are way more attractive than they really are, because they're the first thing you've seen, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
So, but it's just like the way that she gets treated overall throughout. It's just every time she walks in a room, men's faces are just like, oh. And I'm like, yeah, she's very pretty, but I don't know. I guess I wouldn't have as much of a problem with it if that didn't seem to be like half of the character, you know, like I've said before.
Yeah, I completely agree. I do like in this scene, though, when Bob does his little thing. I love Raylan's responses. Yes, she is pretty. I need you to listen to me.
God, he just couldn't be bothered. He really couldn't. It was so funny. I couldn't remember. I just went and looked up Kelly Kapowski because I didn't watch Saved by the Bell, so I didn't even know who you meant. And there's these like sexy pictures of her in this like tube top and jeans.
Oh yeah, I know that picture.
She looks like she's 11 years old. This is super uncomfortable. Like, I'm sharing the link of this with you so that you can see what I'm talking about, because there's the one with the tube top, and it's a white tube top with suspenders. And in that, she looks slightly older. That one isn't so bad. But this one's a black tube top with no suspenders, and she just looks like she's like a kid in her older sister's clothes, and it's really not good.
You know, yes, I do know Saved by the Bell was one of the very first shows that had actual teenagers in their teenager show. Mm-hmm. And so it is a little uncomfortable that they wanted to do like the sexy Farrah Fawcett thing with people who were actually 16.
You know, like I'm looking at this, like this just feels really inappropriate. Like,
yeah, I guess objectively I can see that, but then there's also me who was 11 and watching the show, and again, like, all right,
yeah,
I can
right,
get into that.
like,
can't help it. It's written into my DNA at this point.
I mean, I don't even have a problem with you. It's just the fact that this was like an actual marketing thing that adults set up, and we're like, this is good. Did you get the link? Did you check?
I did. Yeah, and I do know those pictures, actually.
Oh man, she's so young. Yikes.
Yeah.
Anyway, but yeah.
So.
Sorry, little Saved by the Bell side note there, everybody. My bad.
All right, where the heck were we? I completely lost my train of thought because of Tiffany Amber Thiessen. So, Raylan, Bob, following Ava. Bob's excited about it. Okay, that's right. And Raylan knows a place where he can start looking because it's a place that Ava has gone before.
Right.
Which brings us to Elston Limehouse.
Yeah.
Another
Another indicator, because I hadn't yet really started to grasp how little Ava planned this out. But when she was there, I was like, why would she go there? That's like so obvious. That's where she always goes. Why would she do that? And then once I realized that she really had no plan, like, to me, her idea is, oh, I'm going to ditch my car and take another strange car out that they can't track. But it really seems like you don't ditch your car while you're still in town, right? Like, that's what you get out of there. You make it seem like everything is normal, and then you go into another state, ditch, and that's when you start over, when you're safely away. Like, it just, yeah, listen, Ava, give me a call, honey. Next time you need to run, I'll help you out. I should not know more about this than you, but apparently I do. So,
yeah, this is kind of impulsive on the same level of Winona stealing several $1,000s out of an ambulance number.
Yeah,
it's kind of that same thing of like, you just did this, didn't you? Like, what the hell? And Limehouse is really of the same opinion. He's like, you want to do this? One, why? And two,
right.
What are you thinking? I can help, but I really should not be helping you.
I really don't want to help you because it just feels like I'm about to get in some shit because you haven't planned this out. Yeah.
Yeah, and the only way she's able to get any sort of interest from him, she also includes the possibility of him getting her diamond ring, which Boyd just gave back to her this morning.
I honestly was really relieved that he was like, I want that shit.
Yeah.
Because I thought she was about to give that up, and I was about to be like, Ava, really? Because I didn't, like, I sort of expected her. She ends up back in her house at the end of this episode. I didn't think that was going to happen. I thought that she was going to be gone another day, and there would be some awkward whatever that she'd have to explain to Boyd when she did finally wind up back home.
Yeah.
So luckily, she gets home before he has ever had a chance to know that there's anything amiss. But I am concerned. I don't see, like, Limehouse or Errol saying anything, but I am concerned that somehow that's still going to get back to Boyd. Hey, you know, she went up to the holler and was trying to, like, get a car on the DL.
Or better yet, instead of not even Noble's Holler, she was in Harlan in the hardware store when she got confronted by a cop who tasered a guy.
Right? Like, that is an event. That was hard to watch with everything that's been going on.
I was going to bring that up when we get there. And not even what's going on now, what was going on at the time this aired.
Oh, true.
Makes that scene a whole lot less funny.
Yeah.
But again, we're ahead of ourselves. But yeah, she is, no plan. She's being stupid. She does eventually get Limehouse's attention, though, by saying, well, okay, I've only got this much money and my ring. There's a lot more money that I can get you.
Mm-hmm. And I was, at this point, not entirely sure that she was lying. I was like, did I miss or forget something? But no, she's just full of shit.
She's just full of shit. Yeah, and so Limehouse says, okay, but Earl's coming with you. Mm-hmm. Errol is coming with you, sorry. And Ava's whole thing is she just wants to disappear. I want to be left alone. And they go back and forth for a bit about, well, you give me the money and we'll get you the car. Well, you give me the car and I'll give you the money. Well, no, I want the money first. Well, I want the car first.
This is what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah. Eventually, he agrees to give Ava the car, and then she can point them towards the money. And, yeah, like you said, not an entirely necessary addendum to the scene. Mm-hmm. We go back to Boyd. He is at home with paperwork and maps and stuff when Carl comes in to report that he has gone far and wide to everyone in Harlan and told them not to accept Markham's money, and apparently has threatened them or implied a threat to anyone who does. And
I just felt like, I mean, well, I don't know. I feel like everybody's getting threats from everybody. Isn't anybody going to ever, say anything or do anything involving the police with, the number of people that are just, getting up in their shit about their property? But I guess, everybody's just too scared.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those things of we handle things ourselves. We don't involve the cops. Kind of, Winter's Bone, that whole sort of idea of
Right.
we settle this stuff internally.
Yeah.
We don't bring in official anything. We can handle this.
Okay, that's fair.
Eventually, the discussion turns to how they're going to break into Markham's vault. And apparently, Boyd wants to drill into this old mine shaft, which Carl's
This
very
isn't
dubious
totally
about.
terrifying or anything.
Right?
Jesus. When he proposed this, I was like, oh. And it made me laugh because of how in the beginning, like the first episode, I'm like, I don't understand how they're going to do this. Are there like tunnels? That doesn't make sense. Well, no, there kind of are. I just didn't
Kinda
really
are.
think about that.
Yep, there kind of are. And but Boyd says, no, we can do it. We just need the help of this other new guy.
Mm-hmm.
Except the last time I saw him, he threatened to fill me full of buckshot.
Yeah. And there's a moment there, the other dude, he goes by like Handsome something. What's his name?
Oh, Mr. Handsome.
Mr.
AK.
Handsome.
Yeah, I believe that's the pig. I think they're the same guy, actually.
Okay. He knows exactly what the black damp is that what it's called?
That's the term that they use.
And Boyd is impressed with the fact that he knows some things about, mining and drilling and the dangers and whatever. And there is like a flicker of jealousy from Carl, I felt like. Where he like just sort of, he sees them bond for a second because Boyd laughs in delight when this guy has the correct answer and goes, my kind of man. And for a second, Carl looks a little irritated. Like he's sort of like, hey, that's my dad. I don't know who you are. I am his son. Don't you dare. Get out. Like, I'm sort of wondering if there isn't going to be a little bit of a thing between them later on because he just really seemed to sort of take that shit personal.
Yeah, well, Carl has survived a lot over the last 2 seasons or so.
Yeah, he has.
To become Boyd's right hand.
Yep.
So that wouldn't shock me in the slightest.
Yeah, I'm not mad at him. I gotta say, he has earned where he is.
Indeed. So we go to the pizza portal, and Seabass is explaining to Choo Choo and Ty that people all over Harlot are refusing suitcases full of cash, which is, contrary to all good sense in his mind. So Ty assumes, well, clearly people are being coerced. Choo Choo, however, is distracted by the fact that the bartender is skimming cash from the cash register.
Skim milk. You got skim milk. I could not stop laughing. It's just so... is it me, or is Choo Choo's face even more paralyzed seeming in this episode than it has been? It felt more pronounced to me this time.
That's a good question. His voice is still the same. It's that weird, flat bark. Mm-hmm. But, I don't know. He definitely is very good at keeping that same expression on his face all the time, though. Yeah.
Oh, my God. This was so funny, though. Oh, my God. And, guys, Choo Choo tweeted me back. We had a tiny little Twitter conversation. It was the best. Hi. And he was like, well, we'll see how you like the rest of the season. And I'm like, oh, you were going to die, aren't you? I got the feeling. I get the feeling. I don't want that. All right. Sorry. Go on.
It was pretty cute, for the record.
He's adorable. I told him, I was like, I sent Alan a tweet and was like, heart eyes. He's an MMA fighter. I love him. And he wrote back to me, who paid you to say this? Oh, he's a delight.
Yeah. So, so Choo Choo is, he has noticed that Natalie is skimming from the cash register. He's not happy about it. Mm-hmm. Ty wants him to be focused on the bigger picture. And Choo Choo has the solution of, well, if people don't want to sell, you kill them. But that doesn't seem like it's going to go over quite so well.
No, because if other people have family that can inherit, then that's not going to actually work out. Then you just have a whole other family to lean on, which, to be fair, would probably be easier than the people who are living there. Like, if you have kin who stands to inherit a house, and they haven't even moved in, but somebody offers them hundreds of thousands of dollars for this house that they aren't even in yet, that seems much more likely to get you a bite. Nevertheless, it's still not a great solution. It's not foolproof by any means.
Yes. Markham walks in at this point, and he heads to the basement with Ty. And they have a discussion about people are being reluctant to sell. And they note that only Raylan or Boyd has the clout to grind their plans to a halt like this. But Markham kind of says, these are two very different animals, and they require two very different methods of problem solving.
Yeah.
And until they know which one it is, they don't know what to do. Exactly.
Also, can I say how uncomfortable it makes me to see Ty scared? Like, it just really unnerves me because he can be so threatening. Even when he isn't really in his element, and you know that he doesn't really want to be here, that almost makes him more threatening because you get the feeling that he's just ready to fucking just kill somebody to get this over with because he's sick of talking to you. You know, like there's an impatience there that's on its own, it's sort of frightening. But here, seeing him be so cowed and worried and trying to like proactively like head this guy off, knowing that he's pissed at them, and then permission to speak freely, and he gets completely shut down.
Yeah.
That's hard to watch, buddy. Like, yikes, Yeah.
The other part of their question here, right before the permission to speak freely, is Markham wants to know how whoever's doing this knows what properties they're targeting. How do they know who to talk to about this? And Ty says, he's confident who the leak is and that he is going to address this. And this is when he wants to say something else, and Markham is not at all interested. And I like Ty's, he's standing at his attention when he asks the permission to speak freely.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, he's worried for sure.
Yeah. So, yeah. But Walker, good soldier, turns back around and takes off. So we then go back to Boyd and Carl, who show up at this decrepit, junky old house. And it is inhabited by Jeff Fahey.
Yeah.
Who is like one of my favorite character actors.
He hasn't been on this show before, right?
No.
Okay.
No.
I just wanted to make sure there wasn't something that had happened with him earlier that I forgot, because, we meet some of, or do we ever meet any of her family? I guess we only meet Crowders in the first season. Yeah. So I guess we don't. So
this is the first Randolph we've met. But, Jeff Fahey he's great at looking disheveled.
He's a mess.
He's never more disheveled than he is in this show. But, he is Zachariah Randolph, Ava's uncle. And he has apparently never forgiven Bowman for the way that he treated Ava. And that has now transferred onto the family, despite the fact that Ava did shoot and kill Bowman, which Boyd seems to think ought to sort of
ameliorate the situation.
Ameliorate the situation. Yes. But he is intent on shooting Boyd. He's got his double-barrel shotgun pointed at his chest. But Boyd has brought some kind of liquor. I didn't actually know what it was.
Yeah, I feel like they made a point for him to look at the label and everything, but even on the second viewing, I tried to see, and I was like, yeah, I don't think that's anything.
Yeah, and actually, I actually do recognize the label, but I don't know what it is.
Okay.
Not enough of a liquor, man. But, so Boyd has brought this as a peace offering, and Zachariah takes it, smirks at him, and leaves.
Oh, hey, thanks for bringing me the free booze. I thought we could... No, bye. Yeah, that was pretty good.
Yeah. And again, this is sort of what you were talking about before, where Boyd says, well, I guess that's not going to work. We got to do something else.
Yep.
So we can have almost a repeat of this scene.
Yep.
Next time.
Yeah, I just, it's not that I have a problem with repeating a scene necessarily if the first one doesn't take as long as this one took. But, they have us rewatch it, and they have us sit through a kind of like almost identical conversation the second time, with Boyd just being like, oh, hold on, be cool. It just feels really, really repetitive. I just think they could have chilled on this one the second time around.
Agreed. Great. So we go to Ava and Errol, and they're driving, and they're arguing about, again, which comes first, the car or the money, which is something Ava thought they had already settled.
Ava, girl. Did you really think they were that dumb, though? Come on.
Yeah.
She thought they had already settled it because she completely underestimated how many times they've had to deal with sneaky motherfuckers is what happened.
That sounds about right.
I just wish that she had a little bit more respect for them, really, is what comes down to. Just you know what business they're in. They are familiar with all of the fuckery. I'm sure they have perpetrated a lot of it. Give them a little bit more credit, lady. But
yeah. As they drive through, though, they pass Constable Bob. And it turns out Bob has been, not only was he trailing them since Noble's Holler, he was actually able to leapfrog ahead of them and pull over on the side of the road so he'd be there watching when they pulled through. Mm-hmm. So he's tailing the shit out of them.
Yeah, I have to confess that I was just surprised and impressed by this.
Yeah.
Because I did see him just sitting there, and I was like, how did he know where they were going to go? But he just uses common sense. Where are they going to go? There's fucking nowhere around here.
Yeah.
Center of town.
So, Raylan tells him to be careful, and Bob says, man, I was born for this shit.
Oh my God. Bless him. And as soon as he says that, Raylan's like, yeah, I'll be there in a minute. He hears the sound in his voice. He's like, no, I don't want to be responsible for what's happening here. I will be right there.
Yeah.
Oh, bless him.
And then we go to Albert Ficus, who we have not seen in quite some time.
Albert Ficus deserves so much worse than what he got. He just got off so easy.
I will not argue. Yeah. He is, but he's in a motel room. He's all dressed up. He's got roses and champagne. And there's a knock at the door, and he answers with a smile, and it's Duffy and Mikey. And he thinks they have the wrong room until Duffy explains, with the aid of a pistol, that, no, we have the right room, and we're here to talk about Ava Crowder.
Yeah. Yeah, I was like... I kind of kept flipping during this scene, going like, oh, he knew they were coming. Maybe he didn't. No, I think he knew they were coming. No, maybe he didn't. I went back and forth a million times. Couldn't decide. Yeah,
I forgot that Rachel and Tim were there. Mm-hmm. And so I was impressed with how cool he was staying during this whole scene, because I figure even if you don't immediately see these guys and go, uh-oh, the instant they stride into the room, let alone when they pull a pistol.
Yeah,
I start to sweat.
Yeah. I think that was the thing for me. It was initially I went back and forth. And then when Duffy pulls the gun and lays it on the table and Albert's just like, all right, what do you want to know? I'm like, okay, nah, not the guy we knew. He isn't in on this. But I didn't know how it worked. So when I saw that they had the camera in the room, I was like, oh, that makes more sense. Because I couldn't figure it out how it would even work, Yeah,
it's clever, though.
It is clever. And it's just a really good... Because it would be super easy for him to just be like, oh, I didn't tell him anything. Even though he completely did. So, good call, guys, on not trusting this little shithead. Mostly.
So we will come back to that conversation. Instead, we go back to Boyd, and he is now, Carl's there with him, but also the pig and Earl, and they are all now at Zacharias' house. And Boyd offers him $10,000 for his assistance, and he is also about halfway through that bottle.
Yo, that guy drank that shit so quick. Holy shit.
Yeah.
That is pro level.
Seriously. And he does seem prepared to listen. And
if he can understand, the fact that they're making a deal with him when he's that fucking drunk, and then they take him along with them to a fucking construction site, basically. Yeah, I'm just like, this all seems really bad. But all right, I guess you've got no choice.
Right. So Yeah, he wants to know what kind of work it is, and Boyd says, "No, it's the only manner of work you live for," is all the answer we get.
Which I thought I was going to be drinking, but apparently not.
Yeah, right? So we then go back to the motel, and Duffy's interrogating Albert about Albert's crisis of conscience, quote unquote.
Mm-hmm.
And he and Mikey don't buy it, especially because Ava chose not to press charges.
Makes sense.
Sure does.
I really feel like it could have been good for her to, like, just at least for them to play like she was pressing charges and something to be done to, like, keep her from doing it. You know, like, just, I don't know. I don't really know what that would look like, but it's sort of, it's hard for me because I'm not sure exactly how things like this are handled anyway. Like, when she was released from prison initially, I had all kinds of questions on how this would work out for Albert Ficus. Like, how did they get him to confess? What did they say? If he hadn't in the first place, and they still didn't answer that question.
They didn't.
You know, so I'm just like, I feel like if the story is that he confessed after all, but we're never really going to know why, then I feel like the story could also be, oh, we pretended that she was going to press charges and then convinced her that she would never win and the attorney fees would be too high, and so she didn't, or something like this, you know, just come up with another thing. But I'm
totally agreed.
Really wondering if we ever do find out why he finally, because like he says, he lost his job and he lost his pension. And like, being a guard at a prison is a really good job. Like, you get paid pretty fucking well. I have a friend who worked in this business, and it can be a fucked up, disturbing job. Yes. But you can make like 75 grand a year, which for the kind of work it is pretty good.
I was going to say, I'll definitely agree that it's a job that pays well. I don't know that I'll agree it's a good job.
I think it depends on what kind of person you are. For somebody like me, it would not be. Yeah. But some people are able to like turn things on and off more easily than I am.
Yeah.
And I say that with no judgment at all, because frankly, I wish I could do that at times. I think that would be super convenient and helpful to my mental health, but what can you do?
Yeah. But, so Albert is apparently out on his ass. And we still don't really know what happened there, but Mikey and Duffy are determined to find out what they can, so Mikey has a cattle prod, which he is more than happy to jab him with mercilessly.
That's rough, man.
And this is when we pull back. We then zoom in on the smoke detector in the room, which is actually a camera, and Tim and Rachel are on the adjoining room, guns drawn, ready to bust in.
Yeah, I was like,
they don't.
So happy that she doesn't. Yeah. Can I just say? Because Tim is standing there, hand on the doorknob, like looking at her, going, "Are we going? Are we going now? What about now? Okay, it's been like a minute. Are we gonna go?" And she's just like, "I think he'll be all right." Oh my God, I love her so much. I'm not sure that she knows about what else Albert did, or if it's just that him stabbing himself, because the sexual assault thing is so extra gross, and the vibe when he does it of how he's done this probably a million times. Uh-huh. So I want to pretend, for headcanon's sake, that she knows what he did, and she is letting him sit there and suffer purely because she's enjoying seeing him suffer, period. The end, you know?
Oh, yeah. I am. And that's also, I think, in keeping with her character, too. Mm-hmm. Yeah, not that she enjoys other people's pain or anything, but no, he's a shipper.
He is.
And so it's no different than what Raylan does with pretty much every, low-life flunky that he runs into from Boyd's payroll.
Right, true, yeah.
More than happy to let this person suffer because they're not a good person. And, but that's eventually it's enough for Duffy to say, okay, I buy your story because you're not enough. Essentially, you're not enough of a man to take this if you were lying. You would have given this up by now.
Yeah, that feels like so backhanded. I love Duffy so much. It's like, yeah, you look like you're probably a piece of shit, coward. And, I guess the fact that you haven't spilled yet means there's nothing to spill because it couldn't possibly be your constitution. That's just out of the question. I'm fine with it. Keep throwing that shade there, Duffy.
Yeah, so as soon as they leave, Rachel and Tim enter from the side room, and they congratulate Albert on his performance. Tim gives him a fist bump for taking the cattle prods like a man. And Rachel says that, hey, you are free and clear of the U.S. government. Good for you. Go with God.
She says, you have redeemed yourself. And he gets this look on his face. And it's like, yeah. I'm like, oh, God, you're the worst.
Yeah, it would be nice if... Apparently now he's good, and that kind of sucks.
Oh, yeah, 100% I hate it. Yep.
Yeah. But
I don't hate it writing-wise, because that's what happens. Right. But, I hate it.
Yeah. And then it was kind of crazy. That whole conversation takes about a minute and a half, and then they just stride out the front door of Albert's room.
Yeah, I was feeling that way when they went through the front door initially, because the way that it's cut, it feels like Duffy and Mikey left about 10 seconds earlier, if that.
Yeah.
So I was just kind of like, hold on. What? And then when the way that they leave, it just feels like they're very incautious, and I'm sure that it's supposed to be that Duffy and Mikey left already, but we don't see that, and it would have just been nice to see it for my own sake.
Yeah, it really feels like they should have ended that scene before they leave through the door. That's all they had to do was cut out 5 seconds earlier, and that scene would have been fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we leave Albert. We go back to Harlan, and Ava and Errol. And Ava tells Errol to pull over because they need to go buy a shovel. And Errol's like, WTF, we had a lot of shovels back where we came from. And Ava's like, WTF, you changed the deal. We need to go get a shovel.
I think that's fair.
Yep.
Fair response.
And then they get to the hardware store, and Ava tries like 6 different things to escape. And she's just not getting out of Errol's sight. No question.
Yeah, I was like, she's just so unsubtle here. I was surprised that he didn't sort of just cancel the whole thing. Like because it seems so obvious,
Yeah, it really kind of does. Yeah, it really is. Like, she isn't supposed to be a prisoner of this guy.
Right.
So if she was, then all of those things would make sense.
Yeah, exactly. And,
yeah, I do wonder if we were to see this from his point of view instead of her point of view, if it would be as obvious. It's the only thing I can think of is that because we're essentially in Ava's head for that scene, it looks like this is more of a daring escape attempt than it actually appears from the outside.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm completely, bullshitting to try to make it make sense.
Yeah, I just like we need a shovel, and then he even he's like, oh, let me get that for you. Like, he's worried she's gonna bash him in the head and run. And was she? Because she seems like she's frustrated that he took that shovel. So I guess that was the thing she was planning to do, which is insane. Where's she gonna go? What is she even gonna do? What is she thinking? Like, she's not.
Thinking that there's no money. I am literally driving around. I'm going to drive around so I can find a way to escape because I have nothing to give this guy. That's what she's thinking. And I can go steal his keys and take his car.
Steal his key? I guess. I'm just imagining how out of it he'd have to be after she hit him for her to be able to grab his keys and be up that close to him. He's twice her size and 3 times her weight. There's just no way, lady. You just got yourself in a bad spot. That's all. Yeah.
And I also just want to point out, I love that the cashier in the hardware store is the same guy who's there every single time.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
He doesn't even have a role in this scene, really. But
except to watch Constable Bob with his brow furrowed.
Yes. But I just love that they found the same guy to bring back, because this is clearly his hardware store.
Yep. Agreed.
So outside the store, Raylan meets up with Bob, and Bob has upped his ride game. He sold his Star Wars figures and his AK-47, among other things that we don't hear about, in order to pay for it all. And Raylan has to explain to him, on the DL that Ava is his confidential informant, so he needs Bob to go into the store and take Errol outside so he can ease his way back in and get
right.
Ava.
Why did you phrase it like that, dude? You know what this guy is like when he gets a gun in his hand. He doesn't think straight. So maybe don't phrase things like that ever around him. Jesus. Ugh. People.
And yeah, so Bob looks at Raylan and says, Errol's kind of a big guy. Like, what if he doesn't listen to me? And Raylan says, well, you got a badge and a set of balls, don't you? And Bob says, yeah, I got a badge. and I got balls like Death Stars. Let's do this.
Oh my God. I cannot. Like, Raylan, he just doesn't give a shit about other people. He really doesn't.
There's a little bit of sociopath in him, I think.
Right. And like when Constable Bob faces off with Errol, it's just all the more the way they have the camera facing up from behind Constable Bob's shoulder a little bit. So you really get the feel of how Errol's about 3.5 feet taller than him. He looks humongous next to him. No bueno. Yikes.
But yeah, so Bob approaches Errol with this story about an outstanding warrant, and it goes south really, really quickly. Mm-hmm. And Bob ends up tasing Errol into unconsciousness, which, again, is sort of funny, except for Michael Brown and Eric Garner and Tamir Rice and all of these things that were literally going on within 6 months of when this aired. 6 months before that this aired.
Yeah,
and I know you film things in advance and, you don't always know what's going to happen, but, like, again, it's sort of, and even down to Raylan, just Bob apologizes to him for the misunderstanding when he wakes up.
Mm-hmm.
And it's sort of funny, except for it's happened way too often and was happening at this time.
Mm-hmm.
And I wish I could enjoy the scene for the light comedy that it is.
Yeah, it's definitely like, it'd be super funny if we have a guy with a power trip who isn't even actually a cop abusing his power in order to intimidate a black man in order to serve as a distraction.
Yeah.
Like everything about it is not a good idea. Yeah.
Yeah, it just really, and it makes me look at every single one of those cops who were involved in those things and go like, how many of them were Constable Bob?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, when somebody like Raylan is saying to you, well, don't you have any balls? That's what leads to this shit, Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, and I think it bums me out that the show isn't self-aware about that stuff. But
or maybe they are. Maybe I'm not trying to give them credit, but maybe they're just like, this is a thing that happens. And it's just that tonally they didn't do that well. If that is, I don't know.
Yeah, maybe I should give them more credit, but I just feel like it's a savvy enough show that I feel like most of the time they hit the tone that they are shooting for. And this just was not one of those times, if indeed. Right. Yeah, I don't think that they were being self-aware about it. If anything, I think that they were showing, the lighter side of tasing people who haven't actually done anything wrong. And it was just in poor taste.
Yeah, I think you're right, honestly.
So, anyway, we leave that fiasco, and we go to the opening, or the non-opening, of Obsidian 940, which is in the middle of, like, a stream. And Zachariah and Boyd and his crew are loaded down with picks and shovels and this giant circular saw.
Mm-hmm.
And Zachariah looks so excited.
Oh my God, he's like, this is the only thing he cares about. It's so crazy. It's such a weird thing to care so much about, but okay, sure, I guess we all have our thing.
And not only does he care about it, like he knows a lot about it.
Yeah,
he's going on and on and on about the history of the stuff, and he's just like, this is, I guess, like Boyd said, this is his jam.
Mm-hmm.
So they talk a little bit about what they're going to do, but I guess there's not a whole lot else going on in the scene. Now that I'm looking at it, they show up. That's the scene.
Okay.
They show up.
Yeah.
Then we go to Raylan and Ava, who have been reunited. And they ride out to this deserted spot, and Raylan is, can I say, giving Ava the business?
I would rather you didn't.
Okay. Well, Raylan is having a conversation with Ava very forcefully about what the fuck.
Yeah.
What did you think you were trying to do? What was your plan?
Mm-hmm.
How did you think this was going to end?
And here again, I'm like, yo, A, okay, yes, you have a point. You're not wrong. But B, holy shit, you still haven't shut the fuck up to listen to what she's telling you. Like, she was so scared that she bailed with no plan. How about you, like, look at that? Raylan, you're useless.
It's true. It's very true. So, yeah, eventually he does eventually realize just how, I think, shaken up she is by this, and maybe it's just that he realizes he's not going to get any additional information. He does relent a little bit by the end of the scene, but only a very little.
Yeah.
Yeah, she asks, would you like to yell at me some more, or can you get me home so I can cook the dinner that Boyd thinks that I'm going to cook him? And Raylan's response is, well, honestly, I'd like to yell at you some more.
Yeah, that's it. And then Owen started cracking up. I didn't think it was that funny, but he did apparently. So there it is.
Back at the mine entrance, the boys are busily sawing away at the entrance to the mine. And there are sparks flying everywhere. So Zachariah kind of shuts him down and says, what are you guys thinking? There's methane trapped in there. You're going to blow yourselves to kingdom come, along with the rest of us. Mm-hmm. So they are warned, and they go right back to doing what they were doing.
Oh, my God.
So
I didn't understand that. Why doesn't anybody, hey, you're doing the same, like, because he doesn't really give them an alternative way to go about it, I guess. But yeah, I was definitely like, why are they just going on and doing the thing anyway? Okay, I guess that's and he is he hears a rumbling and he says, everybody get out of the way, and Earl is not quite fast enough, and he takes a ride on the mine shaft cap. Oh my God, that was super, like, there was something about the way this was filmed that felt so much more real than most explosions do. I think maybe the way that they show, like, the actual saw goes flying and lands in the creek too. Like, everything just kind of, you felt the impact of it all, you know? Okay. And so this one, like, kind of felt more dangerous in some ways. Like, you know, the explosion last episode, a guy literally gets blown up all over them. But it felt like a joke. It felt like a you know, horror movie moment. And this really just felt like, holy shit, you know, like, I don't know. There was something about it that was just different.
It was definitely different. And I think that was very intentionally a punchline. And I think this was intended, like, oh my God, we lost somebody. Except, no, we didn't. Earl's kind of shell-shocked and can't hear anything. Mm-hmm. But he's actually fine. I think it was the threat of losing somebody, even if we don't really care about him, because we don't care about him.
No, I don't care about him.
But yeah, I don't know. It was different. I don't know. I think it impacted you more strongly than it impacted me. But
yeah, it wasn't like it impacted me in terms of being, like, afraid for anything. It just felt real. I don't know what it was, but maybe just because I didn't expect it to, for it just to be like, because nobody's bones are broken. There's no blood. So I think that's kind of what it was, is that it's just that they're thrown, which is kind of unusual, you know, in just in general. When you have a TV show explosion, for there to be an explosion with nobody being blown to bits or really injured, that only tends to happen when you're a cool guy walking away, you know, but everybody was right near it. And so I guess the fact that they showed some restraint maybe is really what it is. But
okay, interesting. But yeah, it turns out everyone's okay except for some deafness. Mm-hmm. And but now they have to take some time and chill out for a bit because the shaft has to vent for a few hours before they'll actually do anything, so they don't all actually die.
Correct.
And this is also where we get the title of the episode, because Zachariah talks about Boyd saying he's never going to do any other sort of thing with mines or enclosed spaces unless there's a sounding. And I guess the implication being that Boyd is not doing that here.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not 100% on what a sounding is. Is that when you send like something ahead?
Yes, it's when you figure out how deep something is.
And how do you do that?
I don't know. I think they use canaries. Is that how that works?
Is that how?
No, that's not how that works at all. I don't know. Dolphins, sonar, echolocation.
Dolphins. That's what it is. Thank you, Alan. I like that you said canaries like that was a joke, but then said dolphins in a dead serious sort of voice. That makes sense.
The action or the process of measuring depth of the sea or other body of water. See, dolphins.
Yeah.
Wow, all right. And apparently, according to Google, the second result, by the way, after the definition of sounding, is that another word for sounding is cock stuffing, as it's called in the S&M community. That's the second result from Google.
Oh, my God.
Oh, God. Long, smooth, thin surgical steel rods called sounds, and I'm not going to read the rest of that sentence.
Oh, no. All right.
Wow.
Just put that up. Nope. Don't. We're moving on.
Yeah.
Just say, what's the next scene? What's the next
All
scene,
right.
Alan?
So we then go to Calhoun Schreier's office, where, speaking of cock stuffing, he's hanging out with Caprice. And they are just finishing up. Do you like my transition there?
I can't, I'm barely hearing the words coming out of your mouth, to be honest. I'm just so, I'm having trouble here.
Well, as she exits, Seabass and Choo Choo enter the office and force Calhoun to have a seat. And Seabass tells him all about Seer School, which is where you go in the army to learn how to interrogate people and to resist said interrogation.
This scene should not have been as funny as it was, considering how it starts.
Yeah, he gets him all set up with the story about this guy with the perineal injury repeated and how this guy lasted a week, and gets Calhoun all primed up for some serious torture. And Calhoun says, well, I'm sorry, but I have no idea what you're asking about. So Choo Choo delivers a starter tap to Calhoun.
How did this kill him? And I'm not even saying that this doesn't make any sense. This is bullshit. I really don't mean that, because if there's one thing that I have learned over the course of reading weird news stories and stuff, it's that the human body is crazy fragile. We can make it through some shit that you'd think we'd never survive. And then there's things that it really doesn't seem like that should kill you, and it does. So I believe that a punch that's just right could lay somebody out dead. I really do. But I want to know how this works. You know? He's bleeding out of his ear, you notice. I don't know if you noticed.
Yes,
I noticed.
I did.
So, what happened? Is that his brain? Did his brain just melt?
I imagine it was probably I don't think his brain melted, but
I'm
do think
pretty sure his
like
brain melted. I think that's what happened.
We can go with that. But I do know your brain can rattle around inside your skull.
Yeah, that's what happens to football players, right?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And there is that really, really, really thin, delicate casing around your brain that can tear.
Oh,
and
okay.
Again, I don't know that those things kill people necessarily, but like you said, the human body is weirdly fragile if you do the right thing to it. I didn't know this lady, but I want to say she called up looking for insurance, or maybe I could be conflating it with two different people. I knew a woman who had a newborn child, and the child was in her lap and squirming around, and he kind of jerked his head up and smacked her in the chin. And the jaw did something weird. Like, it did some weird thing to her, and it gave her a permanent stutter.
Jesus.
Yeah. I think
that's awful.
This might be someone my mom knows. I'm drawing a blank now. I don't remember. But yeah, it was just the craziest injury that came out of nowhere and literally impacted the rest of this woman's life.
That's so sad.
Yeah, it really, really is. And
why'd you tell me this story?
I am just full of joy tonight, aren't I?
What are you doing? God. Oh, all right.
So yeah, Choo Choo delivers the love tap. Calhoun hits the floor and is just dead. Dead by one punch.
I mean, it's almost embarrassing. Like, that's all it took. God damn. All right. Well, bye, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. And Seabass is not happy about this. But Choo Choo says it. You know, if you want a starter tap, then you do it. You ask me, he gets Amtracked.
Oh, my God.
Or I guess it's...
if you
there's too much inflection in that quote from me. But yes, Choo Choo does what Choo Choo does.
I mean, it is kind of their fault. Like, they know his deal, right?
Yeah.
I thought.
Yeah. I think Seabass is, I don't want to say overestimating, you're right. That's why you bring Choo Choo.
Yeah.
Because he hits you and you go, oh God, okay, I'll tell you what you want to know.
I just don't, like... this is why I really think that Choo Choo's going to have to die, is because he's focusing on things that don't matter. He doesn't know how to restrain himself when he's punching somebody or talking to somebody. He's just out here saying everything to everybody. You know, like, this is just, it can't go on. And the way that Avery is like, plug up whatever leaks you may have. And I'm like, oh no. That's Choo Choo. Choo Choo's the leaks that you may have. I just feel bad. I like him.
I like him too. But, yeah, Choo Choo is, he's definitely a blunt instrument.
That is a very good way of putting it. Yes, agreed.
So, poor Calhoun never even got to see whether or not he could withstand torture. And they're back to square one. Seabass is not happy.
Yeah, Seabass is like... I don't know. Seabass is sort of weird, where I feel like, what are you doing here? Like, Lee's the guy who handles shit. And even though...
Ty?
Yeah. Why'd I call him Lee? That's weird. Ty's the guy who handles shit and is sort of the leader. And then you have Choo Choo for the beating up. It really feels like Seabass doesn't need to be here.
He's the wild card. Every group needs a wild card.
He is superfluous. I have a feeling they might try to kill Choo Choo and he'll kill Seabass. Like, I don't know. I just don't... I see them trying to kill Choo Choo or wanting to kill Choo Choo and that not working out. Because he is... I want them to underestimate him. That's really what it is I want them to think it's going to be easy, and then it should just blow up in their face a little bit. Frankly,
okay.
You know? I just don't want anything to happen to him, okay, guys? Like, can we just not? That'd be great. Good talk. Okay.
I think that's fair. So I want to keep talking about this scene because I don't want to go to the next scene, but I'm out of things to talk about.
What could it be?
Our final scene of the episode is Ava returning home, and she has a bag of groceries, and Raylan is right. You know, it seems to have not stopped talking since the last time we left them.
Mm-hmm.
They're still arguing. Raylan is trying to get her to agree to not run again, but Ava is still rattled, and basically says, "You only care about building your case against Boyd." And
to which he's like, Yeah.
Although what he specifically says is he's interested in finishing what the two of them started.
Whatever.
So Ava finally comes up with terms. She demands $100,000 in cash in a place somewhere out of the country, not witness relocation. And Raylan says, well, maybe $50,000 is a little more realistic than that. And he promises to find her a place where she's safe, she's happy, and where she can start over. And isn't that basically what you want?
I mean, is it? Like, she doesn't contradict him. I can't tell from her face because she accepts it, but it just doesn't seem like what she wants now.
Yeah. I think that's the big question is what the hell does she want?
Yeah.
Yeah. But she asked him, you're going to take care of me like you did when you came to my door after Bowman? The answer to my prayers? And then she grabs him and kisses him.
Yeah.
So what's up with that?
All right. So here's my theory. She wants Raylan to be invested in her.
Okay.
You know, because she really does think that he doesn't give a shit about what happens to her. So if she can get him emotionally reinvested, he will start to worry on her behalf and take this shit more seriously. That's my hope, because I don't want this at all in any fashion. And I want it to be pure manipulation on her part. I want her to just straight up be playing him. Please. Please. Don't do this show.
So what odds do you give that theory?
What I think is really happening here isn't that the show is starting shit up again with them, but is just having her not know how to deal with anything that's happening to her.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? Like, she's just she's grasping at straws, doesn't know where to put her emotions, doesn't know who to trust or depend on, and feels like there isn't anybody. And if that's the case, I would be even fine with that, because I get how that can happen. You get in a situation and all of a sudden you kiss somebody that an hour ago you would never have considered, and an hour later you're like, why did I do that? So if that's the case, that's also something I can deal with. I cannot deal with them trying to resurrect the two of them as a couple. Please, no, never, ever again. They didn't have great chemistry then. They sure fucking don't have it now. That kiss was painful. And it just adds a whole... shit is complicated enough, show. You don't need to do this. This is unnecessary in every way. So... And it just... It feels totally out of nowhere in terms of her character, acting like she suddenly wants to be with Ray. What? Like, no. Mm-mm. So...
Now, let me ask you. I read something from just a random viewer speculation about Ava. And he said, or the author said, I assumed it was a he, but the author said that they believe that Ava wants to be attached to whoever is going to do the best for her, which is why it started out being Raylan, it eventually became Boyd, and then she gets wishy-washy. Do you buy that at all?
I think that's, like, unfortunately, exactly what Catherine was talking about in terms of, like, the cheerleaders having power.
Okay.
So I would buy that, but if that's what's happening, I want it to be less that it's an instinctual thing and more that she has realized that about herself and is doing that with full awareness.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? Because I want it to be the manipulation thing.
Sure.
I don't think Raylan's going to fall for it. If he does, fine. Like, I will hate it, and I won't really buy it, but I'll also kind of like it because fuck Raylan most of the time. So, but I just don't want to watch it, you know? I want to watch it happen to him, but I don't want to watch it unfold. Does that make sense?
Fair. That does make sense. That does make sense. But okay, yeah, that's one of the things when I was watching this last season, I went back through and tried to find a lot of stuff that people were I tried to look at the reviews that were coming out as the show was coming out.
Okay.
You know, like the AAV Club, like the morning after, will do their write-ups of the episodes and things like that. And so I found it really interesting to see what people had to say as this was unfolding on TV for people who were invested enough in the show that they were going to go and write on message boards about it.
Okay.
And I found that, again, and most of it is, you know, yay, this show is awesome, or oh, God, this all sucks. You know, normal internet stuff.
Right.
But I found that to be an interesting read on her character because it isn't the way that I read her. And it's not the way that you and I have been talking about her for the last several seasons.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it didn't ring 100% false.
Yeah, I feel like I just think that that's going to be a thing for women who have not been in a position where they're making enough money to live on their own most of the time. That's just going to, you know, like she, right out of high school, married a dude, worked as a hair cutter in this, like, she has this huge house. She sure wasn't making it with that money. So, you know, her drug dealer husband was making it for her. And I just think when you're a woman in the kind of conservative setting that she was raised in terms of, you know, gender roles, that's just going to happen. Women are going to see men as more than a partner, as a provider by default a lot more often. And so I think that that's a totally acceptable way to read her character just because of like the standard of somebody in her position economically, and you know what I mean? So I think that's fair. I just don't really I feel like it's such an abrupt change suddenly that doesn't make a lot of sense right here. It feels like if she had been gonna sort of feel like, oh, Raylan would do the best for me, that would have happened a little bit ago when she first got out of prison, when he saves her from prison, right?
Sure.
That feels like the time where she starts to make a little bit of a shift and look at him differently and reevaluate things. But that doesn't feel like anything like that's been going through her head. And then all of a sudden here we have this thing. So if that is what they want it to be, I don't think they set that shit up at all. I don't feel like it feels organic.
Okay, I would tend to agree with you. Yeah. But yeah, I guess again we'll have to see exactly what the hell was that, because that's the question I had.
Fair. Yeah, I'm not happy about it, but
that's where our episode ends. Actually, our episode ends about 30 seconds later when Boyd calls on Ava's cell phone, and Ava says he's going to be back soon. You should go. And Raylan says, "Well, I was thinking I'd stick around for a little bit."
Which is that him being like, "Oh yeah, now that you kissed me, I was thinking we could fuck real quick."
I do think that. I think that's the implication of the sentence. However, I do not know what the intention behind the sentence was. If he's saying that because he's a funny guy, or he's saying that because that suddenly seems like, you know, an invitation.
I really hope that's not it, because I'm not here for it at all. I just don't want to do this show. Don't do this. Don't make me do this. Don't you do this. This show can be so great in terms of like the chemistry of actors and stuff, but they are not good sometimes with the women that they set Raylan up with. You know, they're just like, well, you know, Raylan's hot, she's hot, whatever. No, it's not that simple. And when it doesn't work, it's so painful to sit through. Anyway. All right, well, then that's that. I'm going to check and see if we have any new reviews. Nope, no new reviews. Guys, do this. Get on this. Let us know.
Killing, man. Oh, and I'm going to send this to you, by the way.
Okay.
All right, good. No, there's nothing else spoilery on here. It's a picture that I found from the Justified subreddit.
Okay.
I was poking around, and it cracked me up. It was detailed martial character summaries.
Sarcastic erection. Oh, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yep. Guys, I'm sorry if I just said sarcastic erection into my mic with no context and you're a little bit concerned. I would understand that. Alan, if you would be so kind as to post this in the patrons group.
I sure will. Yeah, and for those who who don't have access, it's Rachel, Raylan, Art, and Tim. And the captions, "Don't do the thing," "I did the thing," "You shouldn't have done the thing," and "sarcastic erection."
Yeah, that's not inaccurate. I'm not even mad.
Yeah. But okay, yes, we can move on to patrons and people feeling bad because they haven't left us a review.
Yeah, everybody should feel bad. If you've been listening to this show, you've enjoyed this show, and you haven't left a review yet, I really want you to go stand in front of your mirror, look yourself dead in the eye, and ask yourself, what the fuck is wrong with me? And just say that over and over and over again until you break. And then leave us a review saying how great we are. All right. But new patrons. Hi, what's up, guys? We have Katie Riken, Victor Chan, and Gabby Mattis. All became patrons this past week, so welcome to all of you guys. Thank you so much. I'm sorry, Katie is not a new patron. She's been a patron. Something happened there.
Welcome back, Katie.
But yeah, I'm like really excited because I have a new $20 patron perk. And ooh. I think one of you is a $20 patron. Yes, one of you is. But I had been trying to figure out what I was going to do for $20 patrons because I had done previously a weekly lunch date. But it's a hard thing because most people have jobs and they can't make it during the day. And I record in the evenings, so there wasn't a lot that I could fit in. And then I decided, well, I know, I could just do one of the things that I do at night and make that like be a thing. So what we're going to do is for $20 patrons, twice a month, I'm going to be doing the Harry Potter show with Rashawn live on camera.
Nice. And
y'all can sit in, chat with us, ask questions, whatever, twice a month, Friday nights, 7:30 Central Time. And I'll post them as events in the patrons group and whatnot. And I think that'll be really cool. Because I just wanted something, I felt bad because I had a description of a perk in the Patreon descriptions and it wasn't accurate anymore, but I just couldn't think of what to do. And so I'd need to still think of something for $15 patrons. It's slightly less intense than that. So if y'all have ideas, please let me know. And yeah, I'm stoked about that. I have some other stuff that's in the pipeline that I won't talk about yet because when I did, it got a little out of hand last time. But Alan knows what I'm talking about. But I will be announcing that in a bit. And yeah, other than that, you guys know where to find us. Patreon.com/unspoiledpod. Or no, it's Facebook.com/unspoiledpod. Twitter Unspoiled Show. Patreon.com/unspoiled. And Instagram @unspoiledpodcast. I know I have another thing that I meant to announce, but I don't remember what it was. Sir, take it away.
All right. Well, you all can find me on Twitter @AlKingsley. I'm just as good as the last time you checked my Twitter. So, you should be following me already. But I understand if you're not, it's okay. I forgive you. Come, join me in my wonderful world of 140 characters of hilarity and insight and life-changing emojis. Yeah.
GIFs?
Sometimes. They're the Wild West of Twitter. Anything is possible. There could be GIFs. There could be pictures. There could be me taking photographs of games that I've just bought and now we're going to sit on my shelf for months on end. Mm-hmm. There's going to be me trying to get the attention of famous people. There's me trying to get the attention of not so famous people. I do all kinds of things, and you need to be a part of it. And, that's about it, really.
Okay. That's fair. Well, everybody, I hope that you enjoyed the show. Thank you very much to all of you for your input and chatting with me and being on Twitter and whatnot, saying hi. And I know what it was that I wanted to mention, that the next book club book for Unspoiled Book Club is going to be Bag of Bones. And I'm recording it with the two guys from Overdue, Andrew and Craig. And
Right.
I'm stoked about that. I'm really excited. And I've seen a lot of people who were like two of my favorite book podcasts covering Stephen King. This is going to be amazing. So I'm like, yeah, no pressure. But I am totally excited about it.
Yeah, you got this.
I think it'll be awesome. So it's one of the I don't listen to many podcasts, but when I really like something, I definitely get a little bit about it. So I know that they're just regular dudes. Like, I'm a regular chick, but I am kind of like, oh my God, I'm going to talk to Craig and Andrew a little bit. So y'all can come and listen to that book club podcast and hear me geek out a little bit. All right. Well, thank you all very much. And we will see you next week with a new episode.
Bye.
Toodaloo, motherfuckers.
On this lonely road, trying to make it home, doing it by my lonesome, pissed off, lonesome. I'm fighting for my soul. God, get at you, boy. You try to go God, fall back, I go hard. On this lonely road, trying to make it home, doing it by my lonesome, pissed off, lonesome.
I see them long, hard times to come.
My life is ill, son. Prepared to kill, son. Paradox of pain, baby, it's real, son. Lonely traveler, ain't trying to bow to you, but if you're feeling tough, dog, I walk up all.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.